Here we are then, guys, ready for another interview with the Martial View. And this time, we're really lucky to have Andrea Harkins, the martial arts woman, all the way from Arizona. So this is one of the amazing things about the technology now that's available. And obviously through this weird period of COVID times, at least we can connect with people around the world and get chatting with them and share their experiences and stuff. So thank you so much for coming on, Andrea. I really, really appreciate it. It's obviously amazing. You've got a really good background in martial arts. You're a motivational speaker. You're a podcaster. You're a blogger. You're an author. You've got so much going on. So for anyone that hasn't seen you on Facebook or any of your social media things, do you just want to give yourself a little introduction just so people know who you are?
Yeah, I would love to. Well, as Dan said, I'm Andrea Harkins. I'm known as the martial arts woman, and that just kind of came about from all the work that I do in martial arts. A lot of it geared toward women, but mostly a mission of positivity on martial arts that I share with everyone. And I've been in the martial arts for more than 30 years, and I just really love the mindset, and that's a lot of what I focus on. So I'm so happy to be here, and I hope everybody considers connecting with me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Usually if you just search the martial arts woman, you'll find me. So,
yeah, definitely.
So please connect.
Yeah, you've got a really good social media presence, and obviously, like we've connected before many years ago. I think it was a while ago, wasn't it? Way back at the start of the Martial View. So it's nice to finally see you face to face and speak to you, and connect that way. So was it kind of the mental aspect and the mindset that really attracted you to the martial arts to start off with?
Well, I had no interest in martial arts when I began martial arts.
Sure.
I only went because my husband wanted to.
Okay.
He wanted to go. We were married for a year, and we'll be married 33 years this month. So this was 32 years ago. He wanted to go, and we went to this class, and I really had no interest in it. I didn't really like it the first couple of classes at all. So there was nothing that attracted me toward it other than let's go and do this together.
Sure.
But what I found over the years was that I recognized in martial arts how much more capable I was of doing things than I recognized. I really didn't have a lot of confidence. I really didn't ever give 100% to anything. But when I began martial arts, and I started to see that I had some skill. I wouldn't call it talent. I had skill, I had ability. And I was like, wow, I can really do this. That connected me really with the mindset piece that I now always use in life. And that's just, sure, I can do that. If I try it and I give 100%, I can do it. And that's kind of my mantra.
Perfect, yeah.
That's how it all unfolded for me.
Amazing, yeah. So you said that the first couple of classes then you didn't really connect with it or yeah, you didn't immediately take to it. So what kept you going during those first couple of classes? Was it just the fact that you were
well, my husband was there, and we didn't really necessarily work out together, but I thought, well, I'll do this for him. He really wants to do this. But it was just a couple of classes in when I was doing some very simple stance. And I remember the instructor, and I was this new person. I remember the instructor actually stopping part of the class and telling people to look at me, told me to stay there. So look at her. And it was like the amount of focus that I had when I was standing in this particular stance.
Yeah.
And he said, that's what it should look like.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm doing something right. I'm good at this.
Gold star.
That was the switch. It was just maybe getting a little accolade from the instructor, and it kind of switched my mindset to think, okay, this is something maybe I can be good at, and I better give it a try and see what happens.
Yeah, it's interesting, obviously. So just that one piece of positive reinforcement then started this whole journey that you've now 33 years later, you're still doing it now. And obviously, as I've said, you've got a great following for martial arts women and men around the world just with your positivity and things like that. So when did you start really progressing in the karate then? And was it specifically karate you were interested in, or was it just what happened to be there?
Yeah, well, the style that I actually learned and practiced all those years was Tang Sudo.
Okay.
It was a Tang Sudo system, so it had aspects of Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu and even some karate in it, but that was the main system. And it took me a while. I enjoyed the physicality of it, and it took me a while to kind of really get into it, but it was a slow progress for me.
Sure.
It took me a whole year actually to advance from my white belt to the next level, only because of time. I was working, I had, a husband, I had a home, and I was trying to do all those things. So it was not the style that I chose. It was the location and the expense. It was fairly inexpensive at a community center near home. Why not? So that's how it came about to be that style and that location.
And how did you find balancing kind of your home life and your training, especially as you kind of got up the grades and you took it more seriously?
Yeah, it was okay. It was not that difficult. I didn't go every day. I went twice a week or once a week. And since I was doing it with my husband, it was just a great activity for us to do together. But after we'd been married a while and practicing for a while, I had my first child, and that's when kind of the balance was a bit of a struggle.
Sure.
Fortunately, I had a spouse in martial arts, which a lot of people don't have. But since I had that, we were able to kind of, I'll go to class, you stay home with the baby, you stay home with the baby. We kind of did this flip-flop kind of thing. But for me, I just learned that balance is all about doing what you want, what's important to you. It's about time, but it's also about priorities. And even today, you mentioned a lot of the things that I work on, books and podcasts and blogs and social media. But on top of all of that, I have a full-time job as well.
Wow,
So
busy lady.
I've always been self-motivated because of martial arts to really do as much as I can in my life that makes me happy, that makes me feel fulfilled. And that's why I do all of the things that I do, and how I'm able to balance it is simply because I'm doing what I love. And that's the important thing about balance and working in martial arts and trying to make everything mesh and work.
Do you think you would have been that self-motivated had you not got into martial arts?
No, never. I've written a blog. I wrote a blog a while ago called something like Martial Arts Saved Me. And what I was really saying was martial arts saved me from being complacent, from not trying, from, being probably a frumpy 57-year-old woman instead of a woman who's vibrant and trying to inspire others. You know what I mean? It saved me from just not being the person I was meant to be. It helped me get to that space.
Perfect.
So that's exactly what happened.
Amazing. So obviously we've lightly touched on the fact that you've got a podcast, you write a blog, you've got 2 books out as well, and now you're inspiring people around the world with your writings and your talks and stuff and speaking. When did this start coming about, and when did you start putting your thoughts down onto paper, I suppose? When did you start putting pen to paper and getting your stuff out there?
Yeah. Well, I've always been a writer. Since I was like 10 years old, I've been writing. And I write poetry and I wrote songs, and I always thought I would maybe write a book someday. So I always enjoyed writing. It wasn't until 8 years ago. So when I turned 50, right, when you hit that 50 age mark in your life and you're like, and you don't know what this feels like yet, maybe you will someday, but then you look and you go, am I doing everything that I should be doing? What else can I do? And I was doing a lot of volunteer work at the time, but it was outside of my house, and I was always out. And I thought, what can I do at home that will still be a volunteer kind of outreach, a positive thing? And that's when I came up with the blog. A friend of mine, Ando Mirzwa, you might know him.
He's on the blog next week. Yeah. Or he's on the podcast next week. Yeah.
Okay. He and I were friends, and he said, hey, why don't you start a blog? And I was like, what is that? Like, I didn't even know. But he encouraged me, and he taught me how to set up the blog. He told me how to set up a website a little bit, and showed me where to go on YouTube so I could like follow the steps and set up a website. And I did all that, and I just started writing. And then I was eventually invited to write for a lot of martial art magazines.
Yeah.
So the Martial Art Guardian out of UK.
Yep.
I wrote for them for quite a while, and then MA Success and just a bunch of different magazines. So writing has always been a part of me, but it was when I turned 50, and my kids are older now. I have 4 kids. And so I had the ability really to start to focus more on myself. And it just started as this outreach to inspire other people. How can I do something that's like a volunteer effort to inspire other people? And that's how I began the blog, which then evolved into magazines, which evolved into other things.
Yeah. So for anyone starting out maybe with a blog or a podcast now, can you offer any advice for them? Maybe people that, because obviously at the moment with lockdown and things like that, different places around the world, people are starting to do things that maybe they've got projects they've been sat on for a little bit. Maybe they're thinking about writing a book, or maybe they're thinking about starting a podcast or a blog, but they haven't maybe got the confidence to just take that first step. They're a bit worried about people saying stuff about it. Or, they're worried that, I'm going to write this amazing book and I think it's incredible, but no one's going to buy it. And, the usual things of self-doubt that creep in. So as someone that's been there and done it and got through that, what would be your advice for them to pursue it?
Yeah, my advice is this is a perfect time, as you said, to begin those projects that are in the back of your mind. And the one thing that people always ask me about writing a book is, how do I get it published? And that's a good question. It's a good question. And I self-publish mine. I had a publisher once, but I bought back my publishing rights and I self-published. But I always tell them, well, that's a good question, but the question is to you, have you written anything down yet? Have you started it? Sure. And they're like, no. I'm like, well, don't worry about publishing.
Step one.
Start writing first, and then worry about publishing, because the writing takes a darn long time. Sure. Yeah. You have to write it and edit it and go back and forth so many times. But I always say, the thing is that you'll never do it if you don't ever start it. So at least maybe sit down and make an outline or a chart or your thoughts, and then at least you feel like you've taken the first step, and then you can build from there. So the simple advice is really to do it. Like I said with the blog, I didn't really know how to do it, but I just did it. And the podcast, I started less than a year ago. It's called the Martial Arts Women Podcast. And someone had me on their show, like you're having me today. It was a woman friend of mine that had written a chapter in my book. And I thought after that, if she can do this podcasting thing, I can probably do it. And that's how podcasting started for me. I just said, what software is she using? How do I use it? And it was just so easy for me, because I'm not a technical person, that I was like, okay, this is not difficult at all. I'm just going to do this. So, well, it's probably the most difficult lesson to learn when you want to do something. It really is. Just stop what you're doing right now and just start that and see where it takes you.
Yeah, it's just taking that first step for many people that's the difficult thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they see it as this massive, big, project that they've got to get through. And it's like, no, just chip away at it, a chapter at a time, a line at a time, a word at a time. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
Set yourself deadlines, try and meet those deadlines, and then
And if you want to even compare it to learning a martial art, really, right? You don't earn a black belt right after you start. You have to take all those steps.
Yeah.
Great. Writing a book doesn't have to take that long as that, but it's just, all of these things take little steps. I'm still evolving with my podcast. I started by interviewing women, which I've done the whole time. And then I started, writing these big blog posts about them and putting a link in there and publishing that out. But then I realized people are reading the blog and they're not clicking on the link. Sure. So maybe I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to send them the actual link to the podcast and promote that on social media. So you learn. You don't have to be perfect though to get started. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just learn as you go, and that's okay.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And why do you think it's so important then to focus on women in martial arts?
I think there are a lot of stories that women have to tell about their lives and why they're learning a martial art, and they don't often get a platform to tell those stories. The other thing is there's really not a lot of platforms for martial art women. I bet on your show, maybe you've had a woman or two on your show so far. I'm not sure, but it's probably predominantly men
Yeah.
that are on the show. And you're not alone. Most podcasters and podcasts are mostly men.
Yeah.
So I just thought, well, it's important to have a forum. It's not to say that women are better martial artists than men, or that I don't like martial art men. I like everybody. I like all martial artists. I just thought it was important to give them a space to tell stories, not just about martial arts, but about their lives, because martial art women, to me, they're like treasures of information. When you start talking to them, you realize they're more than just a martial artist. Wow, you started a program to give sponsorships to poor children in India. I mean, you're like, what? How do you accomplish these things?
For sure.
They just have so much that they give to, and so many experiences that are unusual. And of course, there's the abuse aspect. A lot of women have had abusive situations, and they're trying to remedy that for themselves. They're trying to bring back control to their lives. Some have cancer and talk about how martial arts really helped them get through that cancer journey.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about how they apply martial arts to life, which I just think are important stories to share, that we can all learn from that and be inspired by it.
For sure, definitely. And what's the way that you apply martial arts to your daily life then? How do you merge the two?
Just, kind of how I mentioned it earlier, I always have that mindset that I can do it. I shouldn't say I always have it. There are many times when I think I'm going to fail, or I'm worried about rejection like everyone else. The mindset piece comes in when I recognize that I'm doing that, and then I tell myself that I can do it. That's what martial arts taught me, because every skill that you learn, every technique, you don't know how to do it. You feel uncomfortable when you're learning it. You worry that other people are going to look at you and think you're inept or you can't do something. You focus on all of those things. But it really taught me that those things don't matter as much as believing in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, you can achieve your goals and you can do anything. I mean, I've had problems in my life like everyone. I've had miscarriages, I've had troubled pregnancies, I've had financial troubles. You face all those things and those difficult times, and you wonder, how do I get through this? But when you apply that martial art mindset to it, you tell yourself, well, I can get through this like I could get through anything. Like I got through breaking boards for the first time, earning a black belt, or taking my second-degree black belt test when I was pregnant. I apply all of that to my daily obstacles. And a lot of people, when I talk about positivity, they think, well, positivity is fake. It's about smiling all the time and just, pretending that your life is great. But it's not really. Positivity and martial arts work together. They're tools that you can use to improve your life every single day. And positivity just means that you use a particular mindset to believe in yourself, to believe in others, to encourage others. And when you do that, you have such an empowering sense of who you are and the sense of your life.
For sure, yeah. And do you instruct martial arts as well now then?
I don't anymore. I stopped 3 years ago when I moved here to Arizona.
Sure.
And, I miss it. I've taught on and off for 20 years. My husband and I did it together. My son did it with us. We've had like a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm so focused on some of these other projects. I still practice martial arts. I practice Tai Chi now.
Okay.
And I still practice all my kicks. If you ever look at social media, you see me doing
sure.
kicks. And that's really just to remind people that age is not a barrier. Don't limit yourself because of your age. So that's kind of how I do my teaching. It's really, I don't do the physical instruction right now, but that's not to say I won't again.
Yeah, sure. And how are you finding the Tai Chi at the moment?
Yeah, I like Tai Chi. When I was back in Florida, I was taking Kung Fu and Tai Chi, and I really loved it because it was so different from Korean style.
Yeah.
Tang Soo, Chinese martial arts are really different.
Sure.
I love the flow, and I love the breathing, and I love everything about it and how subtle they are. and subtle yet deadly. So I really, really like it. And it's much more difficult than people think. If
Sure,
you
yeah.
know anything, you watch people practice Tai Chi and it's so beautiful and slow.
Flowing.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, to do it right and to do it slow and to have the breathing and everything meshed together, it's really, really difficult, but a great personal challenge. So I love it.
You mentioned that you're focusing on all these projects at the moment then. So what are your main project focuses for the future and what things are you looking to work on?
Yeah, the podcast for sure. I really like that. It has a nice worldwide reach. It has women from all over the world who want to be on the show. So I'm going to try to improve that.
Yeah.
I still work on the blog. I also have a third book, which really is in a strange spot in time right now. It's kind of floating and where it'll fit because it's called How to Start Your Own Martial Art Program. So
Okay.
obviously during COVID, nobody's starting a
Sure.
program right now, but I think maybe afterwards it might be helpful for people who either lost their schools, like they can't
Yeah.
physically or financially get back to their brick and mortar school, or it's for the newly minted black belts or the people who always wanted to teach a program and be in control of it. So the book is How to Start Your Own Martial Art Program. It's about 3/4 of the way finished. And it just goes through all these different steps and things to consider because a program is different from a school. Program is more of like um, a portable program that you can really teach anywhere.
Yeah.
So the book talks about where can you teach this? What are your goals? What's your business plan?
Yeah.
What do you need to put in place to get started? So it's really perfect for somebody who's really new to wanting to teach their own program. And it just gives a lot of information on that. So
Yeah, it could be a perfect time as well with maybe coming out of this COVID
yeah,
crisis or seeing the back end of it. I'm
yeah,
hoping that people are going to start really appreciating the martial arts and the physical and the mental benefits that can come from it, and just the community aspect that I think so undervalued within the martial arts as well. Where if you can go to a safe space where there's a community feel and it's a big family feel and people, it's meditation through movement, as you've said, through, doing the Tai Chi and the
yeah,
breathing, things like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I think no matter what martial art you do, there's some form of meditation through the movement. If you've had a bad day and you can just go and smack the pads, smack the bag, get in, have a bit of a spar, work through some drills or do whatever you need to do
yeah,
with your friend, your training partner, the mental health benefits for that are so underappreciated and undervalued that I
yeah,
think some
it
people
is.
are going to really, really grasp onto the martial arts when we get through this, and hopefully, yeah, it will be an amazing time for you to relaunch
Yeah,
or to launch that book.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. So I'll always be writing books. I have other ideas in the back of my head. I'm also writing a book on love poetry and wedding vows because I've always written poetry.
Yeah,
So you just never know what I'll be doing next. But it's all creative and it's all with a focus on helping other people. It's always been my focus is really to help other people and inspire other people to reach their goals and dreams. And I hope that I can do that and can continue to do that over time.
I'm sure you most definitely will. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. You can obviously check out Andrea at the Martial Arts Woman. Which Facebook platforms or which social media platforms you on? Are you on all the major ones?
Yep, I'm mostly on Facebook and Instagram, and then I have some on LinkedIn, on Twitter. So my Facebook is probably the most active, and I actually have several pages there. So
Yeah.
you'll find one of them, and hopefully I'll see some new people there.
Sure. And if people want to buy the book, where can they get the book from?
The book's
What
available
books?
on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's two books actually. I didn't really mention that, but
Yeah.
the Martial Arts Woman book, and that has chapters from different women who would talk about their martial art experiences, and half the book is about my life and my experiences, and then the other half, and it's separated into chapters so you can kind of read one or another. And then my other book is Martial Art Inspirations for Everyone, and that is like a little journal that you can read. You don't write in it, but you read little reflections maybe on overcoming obstacles or how to find joy in your life or how to be more positive. and they all have like a little story with like a little martial art twist to it. So, but it's for everyone, you know, to be a martial artist to read it. So those are the two books. They're both available on Amazon. For those people in the States, I do have copies here. Some people like signed copies, so they can contact me for that as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think it's such a good thing that you're doing at this time, especially showing the positivity and, you know, how much martial arts and positive thinking and things go hand in hand. So yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been fun. I'm glad we finally got to meet.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do it again soon, I'm sure. Thank you so much. That's been another episode of The Martial View then, guys. Make sure that you follow Andrea on her social media platforms, as she said. Go and give her a like, check out the books, etc. Follow her podcast, and make sure you follow ours as well. So that would be awesome. Thanks, guys. That's been another episode, and we will see you all for another one very soon.